The words of Job's friends have run out. Having made the proposition that Job must have deliberately rebelled against God in his heart, though he has kept it secret, because God does not let such trouble come on the righteous, but being unable to identify any particular sin, they just affirm the righteousness of God and the wickedness of Job. But there is no answer to his response, that in fact, when you look around, there is no correlation at all between things that happen to people and their evident righteousness. There are those who blatantly oppose God, who live in luxury and power and wealth throughout their lives. There are others who live in great poverty, who love God dearly and call out to him daily. And so, as Jesus would later say, a man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Now later, the Pharisees would mock Jesus because of this very idea. They considered their accumulated wealth a sign that God was blessing them because of their righteousness. But Jesus called them hypocrites because they did not deliver justice to the widow and to the poor. Their righteousness did not include any mercy, which is a chief characteristic of God. And so Jesus had said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. In other words, riches are an impediment to righteousness, not a sign of righteousness. We all think that riches and wealth and power are a sign of God's blessing on us, but they are not. And again, Jesus' frequent teaching was that the first shall be last, and the last first. But these ideas of Jesus were not new. They go back to the book of Job. The last speech from Job's friends, the third speech of Bildad, was simply, man cannot be righteous before God, because God is so great. And Job is responded saying, indeed, God is so great. He sees everything that's going on, but we can't see him. And this is the beginning of his longest discourse, running over 5 chapters. He continues in chapter 27. Moreover, Job continued his discourse and said, as God lives, who has taken away my justice, and the Almighty, who has made my soul bitter, as long as my breath is in him, and the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips will not speak wickedness, nor my tongue utter deceit. Far be it from me that I should say, you are right. Till I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast, and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. May my enemy be like the wicked, and he who rises up against me like the unrighteous. For what is the hope of the hypocrite, though he may gain much, if God takes away his life? Will God hear his cry when trouble comes upon him? Will he delight himself in the Almighty? Will he always call on God? I will teach you about the hand of God. What is with the Almighty I will not conceal. Surely all of you have seen it. Why then do you behave with complete nonsense? This is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors received from the Almighty. If his children are multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. Those who survive him shall be buried in death, and their widows shall not weep. Though he heaps up silver like dust, and piles up clothing like clay, he may pile it up, but the just will wear it, and the innocent will divide the silver. He builds his house like a moth, like a booth which a watchman makes. The rich man will lie down, but not be gathered up. He opens his eyes, and it is no more. Terrors overtake him like a flood. A tempest steals him away in the night. The east wind carries him away, and he is gone. It sweeps him out of his place. It hurls against him and does not spare. He flees desperately from its power. Men shall clap their hands at him, and shall hiss him out of his place. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we meditate on these words that Job has shared with us from Job chapter 27. First of all, he's saying, God lives, and God has taken away my justice. In other words, the things that have happened to me are not just in the sense that I deserve them. As we know, Job has in fact been subjected to the unjust attacks of men and of Satan. It's not because of his wickedness that these things have come, but because of his righteousness. The Almighty has made my soul bitter. Job acknowledges the suffering that has come to him as a consequence, and that God is behind it because God has permitted it, but he doesn't blame God for it. And it all goes back to the Garden of Eden, where Adam chose that we should know good and evil. So Job has experienced good, but now he is experiencing darkness. He is experiencing evil. But as long as my breath is in me, I will not speak wickedness, and I will not let my tongue utter deceit. I'm not going to trade my integrity just because of circumstances. This is a very strong principle, that the end justifies the means, but it is not a biblical principle. And Job is saying, I'm not going to speak wickedness. I'm not going to say things that are not true. Far be it from me that I should concede what you are saying, that I should say you are right. I'm not going to put away my integrity. Job has always acted with integrity, and they are saying he has acted with falsehood. Well, what's the point of him agreeing with them when it is not so? Once Job gives up his integrity, Satan will have broken him. As Satan said to Jesus, all the kingdoms of the world are mine. Just bow down to me, and you can have them. Satan has no problem giving wealth to people who are his servants. The problem is that Job refused, even under all this pressure, to serve Satan. And this was the dilemma that early Christians were faced. The Roman Empire just required the Christians to burn incense to the emperor, and they were let free. If they would worship the emperor, give him precedence over everything else, in particular precedence over Jesus, they would not be sent to the lions. This is the issue that is at stake. Job is saying, no matter what happens to me, I'm not going to give up my integrity. I'm not going to say, you are right. My righteousness I hold fast, and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. He's not going to act against his conscience. When we start doing things that are wrong, that damages our conscience. And the more that we do wrong, the more damaged our conscience becomes, so that it is easier to do wrong. But Job had always lived with a very good conscience, was careful to do that which was right. What is the hope of the hypocrite? The person who pretends he is righteous before God, though he may gain much if God takes away his life. Whether we have many possessions or not, if our life is a lie, when our life is over, what do we have to show for it? We leave all our possessions behind, and we do not have a relationship with God. God won't hear his cry. God won't save him. Job goes on to say, let me tell you about the hand of God and those who oppress others, because you behave with complete nonsense. His children may increase, his wealth may increase, but they will never be satisfied. Bread is not enough. They all want more and more. Their clothes are multiplied. They live in fear that these things will be taken away, and eventually they will. Their children will be killed by the sword. Their wealth will be given to the poor. And when he lies down, terrors will overtake him like a flood. A tempest steals him away in the night. For the rich person can never find security in riches. By wickedness we ignore God and accumulate stuff on earth. But that stuff just becomes trouble to us. And ultimately we leave it behind and we face God, who we have ignored.